Welcome to the Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Keren Eldad. Settle in. We're about to make you feel really good. Welcome back to the Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Keren Eldad, and today we're stepping into the sacred space that's between learning and teaching, and mastery and humility, and ambition and evolution. Because every true teacher was once a devoted student, and the best teachers are the ones who let the work transform them from the inside out. My guest today, founding partner at the Buckeye Group, a strategic advisor to middle market CEOs, a seasoned executive coach, and Jen Sincero's very first client, embodies this evolution in the most powerful way. He didn't just study coaching and leadership. He lived with it, he wrestled with it, and he let it dismantle what needed to let go until what remained was clarity, integrity, and a level of presence that has made his work with leaders truly catalytic. Through our work together, I've watched him step into a new era of his mastery, not just advising companies, but transmitting deeper truths of growth, alignment, and conscious leadership. I hope today's is a conversation about what that integration and transmission and the beautiful inevitability of becoming what we once sought can do, not only in the lives of our clients, but in your life as the teacher. Welcome, Billy Goldberg.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Good to be with you in person. I still remember when we met, but let's begin at the beginning. Let's begin before we met.
Before BK.
BK, before Keren.
Yeah.
What led you to coaching in the first place, and what were you seeking in the time? And yes, I did just mention it. Tell us about being Jen Sincero of You Are a Badass Fame's first client.
Sure. So I can talk about that directly. And there are, if you've read any of her books or have heard about her, you've probably seen me in her stories or in her books without my name. I was working at a company that just didn't feel like I was being maximized, where I was being the best version of me, and a little bit lost, a new parent, and trying to make my way in the world as a 30-something. And I flew to Washington to speak to the people that had bought my company. And it turns out it was Gannett, the publishers of USA Today. And they had bought the company I was working for and had wanted me to work for usatoday.com, which was completely uninteresting to me. And I had met Jen one time randomly. She had created a men's group, and I was the man that showed up. And so she said, well, let's just meet. And we talked one time. And then about a year later, as I was flying to DC to talk to the people that were sort of controlling my career at the time. And again, I didn't know that I had agency at the time, which I think is one of the big lessons of coaching, is that we really are the ones that are in charge here. But I didn't have that realization yet. So I flew to speak to these people, and I was incredibly dissatisfied. So on the way home, I wrote my Jerry Maguire mission statement memo thing, and I sent it to Jen out of the blue. And she said, and this is the part that's in her the green book, the Badass at Making Money book, she immediately responded, because I said, hey, I think you can help me. I know we only just met once. And she immediately responded and said, you were the prototypical client that I was envisioning. I can't believe that you appeared in my inbox. And we negotiated a rate that was far more than I could spend, that I thought I should be spending at the time. I put that on my credit card. And 3 months later, I quit working at usatoday.com. And 3 months after that, a deal that I had done at a company that I started because of working with Jen was in usatoday.com.
That's an incredible story. I get chills hearing it, obviously straight from the horse's mouth, because I did read about it many, many years before I met you.
Yes.
In You're a Badass and You're a Badass at Making Money. And I remember when we met and you said, you know those stories? That's me.
Yeah, I sat next to someone at the 10th anniversary book signing of Jen's book, and someone said, "You're the hit by the bus guy?" More than just being in the book, but about being in the book, there's a section about the big snooze, which is my section, and I cannot read it without being brought to tears.
Yeah.
It really, coaching in general, but that transformation that Jen and I both encountered together at the same time, because she talks about how I gave her permission to be the best version of herself too. So it's kind of a neat thing, but it is transformative to me, and I'm glad that you and I share that.
It's one of the things that I really find so remarkable that makes me less teary-eyed than you, but still very emotional around this exact same subject, because the truth is, it's not just that you're transformed through the work. We're transformed through working with you. All really magnificent coaching and teaching relationships. And now you know this yourself as a coach, as a teacher, is not really only about the transformation. It's more like an iron sharpening iron kind of relationship. It's a symbiosis.
I reached out to a CEO client of mine that I've been working with for about 18 months to get a testimonial, which is just something that I hadn't been good about doing, and finally asked the question. And so I asked her for it, and she said, "It would be such a pleasure to actually do something for you because you've done so much for me." And I responded, "I don't think you understand what you've done for me in this process as well."
We're all in this together. Yeah. It's a real honor. It's a rare honor, and it's a very special thing. Not to bring us back to the big snooze, but back then, before your inner work, what did success and what did power, what did stability mean to you, and what's changed?
What changed, I think, is my definition of success, and that I realized that I'm the one that defines it. Yeah. I think that before, whether it was how I was raised or being in society or being working in Hollywood, it was having success outward being dictated to you as opposed to feeling good, feeling enough, and being able to define what that meant to myself.
I completely reflect that and share that with you. I think before all of coaching, before the inner work, success is nothing but a series of external mirrors. Whether we admit it or not, that's just how we work. But then after coaching and with maturity comes a completely different understanding that's much more aligned with authenticity and with success.
And it just feels so good and grounded. And
it does. Yeah. So let's talk about a couple of the breakthroughs that got you here.
Sure.
What was the work that got you here? What are a couple of the principles or ideas you think? One of the things I really loved, by the way, I remember still about what I loved You're a Badass, which was probably the first self-help book that really got to me for two reasons. Number one, it's funny. And you and I love funny.
We do love funny.
We can do funny forever.
Yes.
The second was that she said, these are the ideas. Literally, she described her book as, these are the ideas. This is a collection of the ideas that changed my life. And I'm going to share them with you so they can share your life. And that's what I'd like you to do for the listener now.
Sure. So
no pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think the big lesson, I talked about it in various ways already in the last couple minutes, is realizing that we have agency, one, in our lives. We really do control our own narrative, and the narrative that we are telling ourselves is the one that's in control. And I think sometimes if you're listening to others or listening to your mind and not the one dictating to your mind what the story is, we can get ourselves into trouble. So I think that was the first big lesson, that, hey, I actually can make my own choices here and decide what I want. So that was probably the big one.
You've experienced so many different disciplines and different types of coaching, conferences, etc. What are some archetypes that have stuck with you? What makes work really good or really work for you versus not, for the discerning listener?
So again, I think it's something that's not too prescriptive. If it's something that we do from 9:15 to 9:30 we do A, and then from 9:35 to 9:50 we do B, and it's for the masses and not tailored to the individual, or you're not given permission to say, hey, take what works for you and leave the rest. I went to a fairly transformational weekend that was all about having your nervous system meet you where you are. And there was a moment at the end that was supposed to be the culminating event that was going to transform you. And there was actually an exercise 6 hours earlier that once we did, I was like, wow, I didn't know I was capable of this. I didn't know humans were capable of this, let alone me. And I didn't know that my body could listen to my brain the way that it did. This thing at the end, that's a joke compared to what we did. So I think it's something that as long as you're given permission to take what you need as opposed to just being part of some rote system.
I truly love it, because that's always been my impression of you, is that you experience coaching as a teacher. To experience coaching as a teacher is very different, because we're arrogant little shitheads. But it's also because when we're learning, we're actually sifting and sorting, and we're always thinking, well, this is good for me, this is not good for me. We are literally interacting with the work. We're arguing with the work. We're philosophically, well, obviously as Jews, we do this naturally, but we're philosophically inquiring the work, we're questioning everything. That is one of the best ways to make the work your own. And also that was the first tell for me that you're a teacher through and through. Real teachers are like that. This is for me, this is not for me.
And one of the lessons I learned, though, in being discerning what works for me and what doesn't work for me is using a filter. Am I saying this doesn't work for me because there's some kind of fear, or there's some mindset that I'm bringing that I'm not saying, that I'm saying this doesn't work for me, or does this truly not work for me? So I'm filtering out at this point, but it took a long time to get there too. So now I really trust my instincts.
We've known each other for 4 years. Hard to believe, as I haven't aged a day.
That's right.
Same birthday, by the way.
We do have the same birthday. Yes.
Before I ask,
as if you couldn't tell, Virgos, right?
I mean, please.
Obvious, right?
Although, yeah, who knows? Maybe some people disagree.
Yeah, exactly.
The most interesting thing that I find about my work is sometimes is very obvious to me, but sometimes people disagree. What do you think has been the hallmark of this work? What makes this work different for you?
When you say this work, do you mean working specifically with you? It is that there is a path, right? You set me up for point B, and you're already envisioning point C. And this is why B is going to benefit you. Yeah. Trust me. That's one. And two, the community that you have built, the people that I have met through you that are genuine friends that I can call, text, smoke signal if I need something, just feels so good and so real. And so that's probably the most meaningful thing.
It's exactly how I feel about the club, too. I never envisioned this ragtag group growing to where it is and the kind of caliber of people that it's at. But it's one of my joys also to share these stories so that people can see exactly who and what we're talking about. My work is designed to do one thing. Aside from being able to hold a vision that's far, far down the line, what I'm trying to do is kill each identity along the way. So I like to say that this is kind of a voluntary murder pact.
Yes.
And that's kind of what's made this work brutal. But since we've known each other for a bit of time now, I've seen a couple of deaths.
Yes.
I'm wondering if you are aware of some of the identities that have already died along the way, and which one has died the hardest?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think as you and I've discussed, I have another death coming very shortly. I will attempt to keep it together. I seem to get emotional every time we talk, but and it sounds silly to say this given my that I'm on in years, but killing the boy that I was so that I could become the man that I am.
Yeah. What does boy mean?
I think it goes back to, again, what we talked about earlier, which is believing what we are taught in school, believing what we were taught by society, believing what we're taught by our families, and not realizing that we have agency to become whomever we want to become, and that it doesn't take as long as society would have us think it
That's right.
does.
The identity of powerlessness is a universal one, of limitation of my own power.
Yes.
And it's also very unacceptable to people when you fully own your power. I mean, talk about a turnoff for people. When you start literally owning yourself, walking into a room,
Yep.
ready with all that energy. But if you start to finally own it, you become a person who is dependable, a person who can really be a man.
Yep.
I think that's a beautiful identity. When did the shift of identity move into teacher and advisor, and when did it start feeling inevitable for you?
So, again, to go back to Jen, when she and I reconnected on the 10th anniversary of You Are a Badass, she told the story of her parking 3 blocks away because she was embarrassed about her car, and it really came down to her not feeling like she deserved to be walking into an office like this, and I gave her permission to do that. I wasn't something I outwardly said, but she has said, like, however I treated her gave her permission to be her full self. And I walked into an office about 6 years ago of a client, and they appreciated me coming in, but it was about me disarming the room right away and owning the space and knowing that I deserved to be there. So it was a similar moment.
It's just a moment of visceral feeling, this is where I should be. And that's when it cements itself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And now I'm at the place where the CEOs and other members of their C-suite are relying on me, on my perspective on a variety of things. My favorite thing is when clients call me on their way home from work.
Yeah.
Because that's the executive equivalent of being in the, getting your best ideas in the shower.
Isn't that the truth? And to be able to facilitate that, what frameworks do you use with them? What ideas do you share with them? Give us a few of the secrets that you share, the secrets of CEOs.
Yeah. So, well, the thing that I is sort of my entree in and my way in the door is a proprietary framework that is called People Powered Profitability, which is essentially reminding the C-suite that their machines in all of their factories, regardless of they're robotic or not, are their people. And so we use a little bit of it's a loose framework, but it gives a little bit of a scoring system so that they can see how they're doing. But it comes down to the people and using love as a business strategy.
Really leading from the heart.
Yeah.
One of the things I've really loved in watching you ascend into this is that you stayed teachable. Many of the teachers I know, unfortunately, sometimes go a little dark side into, I know this, I'm the teacher now. Mm-hmm. You can't teach me.
Right.
What have you done to stay teachable? What have you learned about humility?
Well, one, I think there's an infinite amount of things to learn so that we can always be growing. And I think I'm satisfied with what I've learned and satisfied with my growth, but I'm not content, if that makes sense. And there is a belief that I have that I can always be growing, always be learning. And the more information that I can bring in, and even the more money, the more abundance, information, any kind of energy that I can bring in allows me to give it out even more. And so everything I take in fully so that I can give to others.
I love that. That's the real embodiment of abundance. Speaking of which, I wanted to ask you, because power can be both performed and it can be embodied. What have you learned now that you're in such proximity to it about what embodied leadership looks like? Like, what does it look like to be leading from the heart and using love versus to be performing it?
So I work with a company that owns some companies, and I was talking to them about the leaders at each of their organizations, and we were talking about what society and historically would call soft skills, which is what I believe and what we talk about all the time. The soft skills are the hard skills, folks. If they were easy, we wouldn't have jobs, number one, but also those soft skills are the things that drive the traditionally what's thought of as hard or more concrete things. So I was talking to them about these soft skills, and I asked them to rate their leaders of their organizations on how they do with these attributes about leadership and other skills. And I said, give me two of your best, and then give me two of your worst, and how do they rate on this scale? So they named their names, and then I said, well, how are those organizations doing? Well, the two that were the perceived to be the worst leaders and worst at those soft skills, guess what? Their numbers were down. And the ones that were perceived to have more leadership skills, their numbers were up. Wow. So I said, hey, small sample size, only 4 companies, but we get an idea here. There's a little bit of proof of concept that good leaders, the people that do lead from the heart, that are connected to what they do, drive performance.
Isn't that true? I love saying this. The results don't lie.
Right.
The results don't lie. Whenever you are in alignment, the results will reflect that alignment back to you.
There's a
that's the difference.
Yeah, and as above, so below, right?
Isn't that true?
Yeah.
Your clients, I'm sure, as my clients do, reflect your work back to you. What are they teaching you these days?
Well, it's fun when they say things back to you that they think they heard from you, but they.
That's the most hilarious thing that really regularly occurs. And by the way, my other favorite is when they project onto me.
Yeah.
In other words, I know what you're going to say.
Right, exactly.
And I'm sitting there going, based on what?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, that happened today, and it wasn't even a coaching thing, and it wasn't something that I would say, but I was talking to a CEO today, and he said, well, and as you would say, don't F it up. I'm like, okay. So, that part, is what I like. Of course, I would hope they would also take the things that I really do say, but I kind of like being in their ear. Yeah. I really enjoy the advisory and strategic part of what I do, and helping them make decisions a little bit faster.
That's the mission.
Yeah.
Yeah. If somebody listening out there is feeling the pull into a conscious state of leadership, where would you want them to start?
With their people. How do you connect to the people around you, the people that are doing the jobs, the people that are leading the people that are doing the jobs? How do you communicate to them, and how do you set expectations around them? Yeah. And being very clear about what you want, and then giving them point B and then letting them get to point B on their own, but really setting expectations as to what that is and how they get there can be on their own.
It's breathtaking. You've been in this game for quite some time now. What would you like people to know about the inner journey?
That it's not a straight line and that there are ups and downs. I give a lot of talks at companies. Once I'm inside them, I give some talks to the leadership teams, and the image that I always use is of a mountain range, and I stand in front of the mountain range, and I said, you all have been very successful at getting to where you are. But look at this picture. There's another peak right next door, but you can't get to that peak unless you go down and you climb back up. So there are mistakes to be made. There are lessons to learn. There are investments to be made to get to that next peak. So if you are willing to go on a journey, you need to know that you'll eventually get to point B, but it's gonna take you a minute, and it's not going to be a straight line.
Thank you for telling people that truth. I reflect and share it with you very, very, very much. I completely concur. What feels most alive in you right now? What's next for you? And what would you like people to check out?
So what feels most alive for me is continuing this journey of figuring out myself and getting myself to point B, and then taking leaders and really showing them that it is okay to be human. It's okay to be vulnerable. It is okay to demonstrate love, whatever that looks like, in the workplace, because you're going to get the most out of that.
You know what you've demonstrated for me that I just love is that learning is in and of itself the best way to live. That learning out loud isn't about showcasing how far we've come. It's literally just about the deliciousness of the learning. Thank you for sharing your story here. Thank you for sharing your expertise here. So many people are going to truly benefit from it. We're going to make sure that we link below every way to get in touch with you for a consultation, hopefully to check out.
That would be great.
Your website.
Yep, at thebuckeyegroup.com and also at Billy Goldberg on all your socials.
I just realized why I pronounced it Bucky. Buc-ee's. We're in Texas.
We're in Texas, yeah.
Your story has always reminded me that mastery is always about devotion. Thank you so much for bringing your heart here. And thanks always for bringing your heart to mine.
Thank you, and thank you for having me here.
Love you so much. To everybody listening, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Coached Podcast. If you loved this episode, please make sure to subscribe so that we can continue to bring you the bravest, the barest, and the most honest stories about what coaching really looks like from all angles. Until next time, we'll share much more with you coming up real soon.